Not too sure what to think of that game, to be honest. Hello, everyone in the chat box. Thank you for joining in. Welcome to the Goon Talk. After Arsenal have drawn 2-2 at Chelsea, I mean, you can see hair is in disarray. I'm all over the place because I'm not quite sure what I've just witnessed. We're going to go into all of that and more and get some of your comments in the chat as well. But I mean, where can you start talking about that? We had 2 shots all game, which is pretty much how Arsenal have been, a team that have not created too many chances. But the other key thing about Arsenal, whilst they've not created any chances, the chances that they have created, they've not taken. So one of those was achieved today. We definitely took the chances that came to us, even though there was only 2 of them. But also defensively, whilst we can talk about the intricacies of Squadron Mustafi for sure, I think that ultimately you can say that that was a decent defensive performance on the whole, and it was down to 2 key errors that cost us 2 goals. That's probably how I would sum that up ultimately. But let's get your comments in the chat box. Let's see what you guys are saying. Javier says, I hope we can turn things around before we lose Martinelli to one of the big teams. Aya says that we need to get Bruno Guimaraes. The Brazilian kids are something else. Big Gunner D said Mustafi had a decent second half. Yeah, I mean, you have to be objective, but we are going to talk about that key error in the start of it. Thomas Lear says Martinelli is the new superstar Brazilian. Kamal says heart and desire. Afnan says Arteta really changed this team. Akene says, is he really only £8 million? Yes, unbelievable that we're going for that cheap. Joseph says, very poor setup from Arteta. Where was the press in the first 30 minutes? Why were we playing to our weaknesses during that time? We'll talk about that for sure. I think there was definitely mistakes made by Arteta in terms of team selection and who was placed where. But ultimately, we have come out with a 2-2 draw. So let's start off with the lineup. First of all, having Aubameyang out is going to be a key issue. We're desperate for him back. Thank God it's only 1 game. For me, at this point in time, when Aubameyang comes back in, he takes Lacazette's place. Martinelli stays in, Pepe stays in, Aubameyang goes through the middle because for me, I can't work out what really Lacazette is. We talk about what he does in terms of more than just goals, and I understand that we talk about that in a way that he drops deep, he picks up the ball, he intercepts plays, he makes plays happen, but I just can't quite work out what not having Aubameyang in there would do, like what you wouldn't get at this point, because even whilst he's not scoring goals, I'm not quite seeing enough from Lacazette which justifies him staying in as our number 9 over Aubameyang when he comes back right now. It's a real big issue for me. Moving down the field, I mean, the wide areas, Pepe, again, didn't do loads, to be honest. It was not the game for him, which is ironic considering I thought this would be more of a game for Pepe. Chelsea were going to dominate the ball. We knew that all the time. And Pepe is a player that works best on the counter-attack. And for me, we talk about us defensively, we talk about taking chances, but counter-attacks used to be something that Arsenal were very, very good at. But Arsenal don't look anywhere near as good as we used to in regards to counter-attacking football now. So, I mean, if you can say that Arsenal are one thing, ultimately it's just taking a couple of chances and ultimately getting a point at the end of the day. But counter-attacks really, really, really need to be worked on because it's something that we're just not showing any real calibre in at the moment. Moving down the back into the midfield, Ozil completely nothing really from Ozil. For me, if anything, Lacazette's going to get a start playing as a second striker player next to Aubameyang because he did do more than Ozil did in that game, and thank God he was brought off. And Aaron, yes, Ozil deserves more criticism than Laka, and that's why he is getting it. Craig says, Martinelli, a shout out to me. Told you from day one, Martinelli is the best thing out of Brazil since Ronaldinho. I'm not sure if you did, Craig, to be honest. I think there was plenty of people that did. John Cronin says, evening, Tom. Think the point given we were 10 men galvanises that team. Omar says, fair play to Arteta for hooking off the ineffective Ozil and bringing in Guendouzi. Guendouzi changed that game. Avon, thank you. One of our members says, sorry, I'm late. I was hyperventilating. Don't blame me, mate. Aaron Letchford, another member, says, Laka works hard for the team. Keep him in and drop Ozil. play 2 up front and have 4 up front. Unbelievable. I mean, can you imagine playing a 4-2-4 formation? I mean, we'd be so exposed, wouldn't we? You know that the wingers wouldn't get back and help out the defence. Although saying that, sticking on the other side of our wing, Martinelli. My God, what a player we've got in Gabriel Martinelli. Signed for between £5 and £8 million from Ituano, in Brazil, near Sao Paulo. Not from Sao Paulo, from one of the 3rd, 4th tier Brazilian teams, Ituano. And I mean, he has just taken to this team like a duck to water. 10 goals this season. Only the 2nd player, I think, so far on the side behind Aubameyang to get into double figures. I mean, if you had bets on who that might have been, you might have said Pepe, you might have said Laka, but no, it is the young 18-year-old Brazilian. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I mean, we have got easily the best youngster in the league. Probably, I'm trying to think, behind Alexander-Arnold in terms of overall, and certainly in terms of forward players. You think of Greenwood, you think of Brewster. I mean, Martinelli's miles ahead of those guys, absolutely miles ahead of those guys. So this kid is something really, really special. And he absolutely played. I mean, you can't say he had an amazing game in terms of the full 90 minutes, but when the ball was at his feet and when he was given that opportunity and when Kante slipped, he took that chance like he'd been playing this game for a decade. So you can't really criticise anything other than us not giving him the ball enough, I suppose, is the best way to sum that up. Chris Smith says, I like so much about Guendouzi, but wish he'd stop flopping and whining when the referees. He does, however, play with heart and grit. We will come on to Guendouzi coming on the second half in a moment. Midfield, Lucas Torreira, absolutely key once again. Mopped up tackles, intercepted passes. Was a little terrier in there. Completely ineffective, really, at corners because he's so small. That was the main thing today I noticed, is that he just seemed completely out of his depth at corners. And we had to defend a hell of a lot of corners today, and they were pretty poor from Chelsea, in fairness. A couple of them we nearly conceded from. But yeah, Lucas Torreira was really fantastic. Thank God that we somehow managed to get this through this game, only with 10 men. But we did, and Lucas Torreira was a big part of that. Granit Xhaka, first half, playing in midfield, did okay. Didn't do too much wrong. However, when he moved into that back line, I think we found our new centre-back, guys. I think we found our new centre-back with Granit Xhaka, because he dropped in, he was solid, he put good tackles in, he was disciplined, he didn't put a foot wrong, he was commanding, he marshalled it, he was a leader in that back line. I have no criticisms of Granit Xhaka whatsoever. Please tell me what you think about that. Moving into the back line themselves, I will talk about David Luiz slightly. Right-hand side, Hector Bellerin, thought he was okay. Very attacking, got quite a position as he does when he pushes up sometimes, and Chelsea were able to put the ball over the top of him, which led to Willian getting a lot of joy down his left flank, Bellerin's right. And that's what you expect from him. But ultimately, I'm hoping that next season, when we have invested in centre-backs, we've got a lot more cover. Other side of the pitch, Bukayo Saka. The thing with Bukayo Saka is that if he was 10 years older, I would be quite critical of a lot of his performances. But the thing is that he's not. He's 17, 18 years old, Bukayo Saka, and he's playing in a position that isn't his. And for a guy, when you take all of those things into consideration, you have to say that he's played a good game, that he's done everything that he can do against a team which absolutely love to attack down that flank. I think I saw a graph in the first 30 minutes or so. 53% of Chelsea's attacks were coming down Saka's side, and he dealt with them. And he was really, really good in certain instances. There is a lot of errors to his game defensively, in the way he takes the ball out of defence sometimes, and dealing with his positioning and how he's caught out of position a few times. But he's not a left back. And I can't be critical of someone heavily that is playing out of position in that light. And you just have to say he's doing a very decent job, but you can see why we are being linked to Leywin Kurzawa and linked to other left backs, and why that is being a position that's being touted for something moving forwards. So that's great. Great to see some people have been able to use their emojis in the chat box. Yusufi is in there. Cake says Mustafi made a mistake, but what Luiz done is criminal. You cannot get a red at 20 min. Right, let's discuss the penalty situation. Ball's played over the top. It goes to Mustafi, and he lightly hits it with his left boot. Doesn't get anywhere near burnt Leno, and that means Abraham's managed to run through, rounds Leno. To be fair, I don't know how Leno didn't take him out with what he did. I really don't understand how Leno managed to not take Abraham out. And that left a very, very bewildered David Luiz back there to then take out Abraham. Now, Kate, I don't agree with your point. The only criticism I have is that maybe in that situation, if you know you're going to take him out and it's going to be a penalty, I mean, just let him score. Just let him score. Or if anything, just try and block the shot. Don't push the guy over, because it's a red and it's in a penalty where you're probably going to concede. There's no point getting a double hit. You may as well stay at 11 men, more competitive, although arguably we look more competitive with 10 men. But at the same time, that's the criticism I have. But I don't have a massive amount. I don't blame Luiz for that situation, because it's Mustafi that put him in that place. And whilst I'll happily hold my hands up and say that Mustafi had a very okay, better than okay second half, and he didn't really put anything wrong second half, and he was all right, and actually part of the reason why we managed to keep a point, David Luiz is not the one that I put the blame at for that situation, because Mustafi, once again, has made a huge error in that situation. And you can't legislate for someone doing that in such a moment of importance. And I'm sure all of you watched Squadron Mustafi's video, where it was a very heartfelt video talking about the effects on him mentally. And that doesn't mean that you can't be critical of a player, because you can still support every single person. Actually, I'm not going to tell him to F off. I'm not going to tell him that I'm not going to abuse them. But I am going to say that Mustafi is quite simply not good enough for this football club. And whilst he's in a red and white shirt, I will sing his name and cheer his name when it's called out in the lineup. But even though I'm quite apprehensive about him being in the lineup, but you cannot, as a football club that needs to go to a much higher position in the league and in a European context, be relying on him to be your backup when Socrates is out. Fingers crossed that Socrates is back for the next game, but we will be without David Luiz, which means that Mustafi could keep his place unless Rob Holding comes in. And it's still always going to be that, even though he might have a decent 40, 50, even 80 minutes like he did against Sheffield United, he always has a key error that's going to cost you a goal and really cost you points. And you cannot have that in the side. Fode says, Arteta's challenge is making the right changes and at the right time. He wanted to make that mistake today again, thank God. Ozil wasn't offering anything, and it was clear that he needs to come off. We'll come on to Ozil in just a second, in a little bit more detail, and the change that happened. Before I do, burnt Leno. Haven't seen too much about burnt Leno. Couldn't do much about the penalty. He chose the right direction. Couldn't get right to the corner. But other than that, burnt Leno was fantastic. Made some really good saves. Actually, very decent distribution at times as well. And I mean, what more can you want from a goalkeeper? The goals, I don't think you could do much about Azpilicueta's goal. It was very close range, very hard to react in that moment, and obviously the penalty is the penalty. So Bernd Leno, once again, one of our better players on the pitch, made some really key saves, and that pretty much highlights everything about his performance. So fair play to Bernd Leno, really good performance, and is a big reason as to why we took a point away from Stamford Bridge today. Let's talk about the changes then. So nothing was made at half-time. We were looking like we were going to bring Holding on for Martinelli from the sounds of it in the first half. Thank God that didn't happen. And instead, in the second half, early on, we decided to bring on Guendouzi for Ozil. And at this point, the game changed. The game changed because we had someone slightly deeper who wasn't just wandering around the pitch ineffectively, that when he got the ball, drove at the opposition. When he got the ball, played a decent pass. That when he got the ball, knew what he wanted to do with it and was bursting a gut to get back every single time. And that's all you want. That is all you want from a midfielder. And whilst I have been hugely critical of Guendouzi for many reasons this season, today came on and did a really great job. Now, where does this fit with Mesut Ozil? Because for those of you that read my article on Dani Ceballos, even though I don't think Dani Ceballos' best position is at number 10, what I do think is something that Arsenal need to try is to try playing without a number 10 and playing with a midfield 3 where Torreira is behind 2 number 8s being Granit Xhaka and Dani Ceballos. I think that adds a little bit more creativity. It adds a little bit more drive. I don't think it takes away too much going forwards. If you play Guendouzi instead of Sabas, you take away a little bit of that creativity that I think we still need. But Ozil, he didn't offer anything. And I really hope that we try Sabas against Bournemouth in the FA Cup just to see what he can do for us. I just don't see why we would persist with Ozil when he's clearly not in a state of play at the moment that is going to benefit us. Because the last 3 games he has been really quite poor. And it was only the Man United game where he did okay. The Chelsea game before that, he looked good. What was the other game? Away at Crystal Palace, whilst I didn't think he offered as much going forwards, other than obviously being involved with the goal in that one instance, and he actually did get back and press and harry. I don't feel like he did that anywhere near as much today. And these are the games where you really have to step up, really, really have to step up. So that was definitely 100% that you cannot persist with a player if they are going to perform like that. That's the bottom line. Then we came to the goal. I mean, Martinelli, we've already talked about him briefly, but very, very lucky in a sense because Kante did slip, and probably without that slip, they get there. But you have to take your luck. 67-yard run from an 18-year-old and then calmly composed finish beyond Leno. Fantastic. No criticism whatsoever in any way you can. You can just absolutely lap up that fantastic run from a young 18-year-old that's doing some really, really fantastic stuff. Matt Hale says Martinelli and Bellerin individual brilliance, and Xhaka did a great job at centre-back. Wilson says Ozil was awful. We need Ceballos in this game. Kay reckons we should sell Ozil. Jubilani says Hector looks good. It looks like Arteta wants to get players in once he has worked with them a bit, hoping it will be the same with Ceballos. And he follows that up with, we haven't been lucky the whole season, and that slip was from the heavens. Yeah, that's a good way to sum things up. I feel like our luck has been completely gone this season. No luck whatsoever. So that was a really, really nice change. Let's talk about the second goal. Cross comes in. At this point, Holding's come on to try and shore things up to take the point. And I mean, it's just, again, it's defensive. It's just awful defending, because the fact that Azpilicueta is able to get the ball in there and the ball is able to come in that far and that low, it shows inexperience and disorganisation. And I can't blame Leno in that scenario. It's just point blank range, and he managed to get a good touch on it. Holding is, I'm not quite sure what Holding is doing. He's not really aware at this point. He's probably not in the game as much as he should have been by that point. But someone should have been in front of Holding to stop the cross in the first place. So that was a really, really, really awful way to have lost the game. But we didn't. We didn't lose the game because Hector Bellerin, in his absolute wisdom, just decided to take the game to the opposition. And it's something that I've been longing for one of our players to do, is just turn around and think, F it, I don't care. I'm going to take this game. I'm going to take a shot. And if it goes wide, it goes wide. But at least I've actually taken a chance. We hadn't had a single shot in the entire game beside Martinelli's goal. We take another shot and we score. And that's what happens. If you try and make chances or make them for yourselves, sometimes they will come off. And once again, Hector Bellerin has scored a very late goal at Stamford Bridge, much like he did in the cup competition, the League Cup, a couple of years back. And absolutely fantastic. So can't take nothing away from that. So overall, to sum things up, defensively, decent. Mustafi, terrible mistake, but then was okay for the rest of the game. Ozil, absolutely invisible. Martinelli, brilliant. Saka, very, very decent. Granit Xhaka, fantastic centre-back performance. Bellerin, fair play to the kid for taking it to the opposition. Arteta got lucky. Let's be honest. Arteta got lucky today with some of the decisions. I don't think Ozil was in the right frame of mind to start this game. I think we should have tried something different. The substitutions, whilst they worked, were very indecisive. He wanted to bring on Holding at the start, changed his mind. Wanted to bring on Maitland-Niles, changed his mind. It just, something was off. I don't quite get it, but I think Arteta got a little bit lucky today. A little bit. Arteta got very, very lucky today, and that's not a big criticism of the guy. And I think that there's been massive strides made under the Spaniard, but I just think that he got very, very lucky today. And I'm very, very humble. I'm not going to be going out and texting any Chelsea fans today and rubbing in, because we were So lucky to get that point today, but I am buzzing. Now, before we wrap things up, let's go through a couple more of your comments in the chat box. G. Wills says, Joseph Maseka, if we play Pepe on the left, we get so much more from him. He'd be able to run at opponents more, plus the crosses and the shots. Yeah, it's something that I'm actually intrigued to see. When we did the tactical breakdown of Pepe before he left Lille and joined Arsenal, he hadn't played a single minute of football on the left-hand side, and we haven't really seen what he's capable of. What we did see in little flashes is that he can take a decent shot. Against Crystal Palace, he had that chance where he hit the post. That shot was taken from the left-hand side across the keeper. So I think there is something there. There's definitely something there that Arsenal can take advantage of. Avon Teddington says, if Arteta was lucky, it'll be the first bit of luck he's had. 100%, very well said. And managers need luck. Coaches definitely need luck in the game. Thibaut says, there's a very good player in Pepe, but he needs to let loose. Sanchez used to lose the ball more than any other player, but for every few mistakes, there was a decisive moment. Very key. These types of wingers will take a lot of chances and they'll miss out on a lot of things before they actually get that magic moment. And hopefully that will come for Pepe for sure. Tom 8 million watt for Martinelli. I still can't believe we got him for so cheap. He looks an absolute steal now. Hopefully Edu can pull off some more manager and sign Bruno Gomes from Atletico Pyrenees. That'd be amazing. Kitchener says, seriously, Tom, we drew away from home against Chelsea with 10 men and we are the lucky ones. Yeah, I mean, yes, it sounds unreal, but it's true. It's what happened. Jabalani says, surely the Cronkies want us to play in the Championship. Surely. I mean, I don't think that's true, but I can see where you're coming from. Beaver says, Arteta deserves credit for today. Martinelli is different class. Andrew Crane says, Martinelli, please big this man up. He's so good, and he really is. I just pray that he stays because you can tell that he's gonna be garnering a hell of a lot of interest from a hell of a lot of clubs across Europe. And I mean, the sad thing is in my mind, if I speak very honestly, is I think that Martinelli sees Arsenal as a stepping stone. I really do. I think he's seen Arsenal as a club that he can go to if it works, and if he absolutely smashes it like he's doing so far, then it'll be a move to a bigger club like a Barca, like a Bayern, like a Real, like a Juve. So I'm praying that's not the case, but that's just where I'm at in my head, where I think things are with him. Anonymous T says, we need to tie down Martin to a 5/10 years at least. Hopefully he stays fit. I'm not actually sure how long he's signed for. I assume it's a 5-year deal, something that we need to look at. Avon's asking the same question. If you know it in the chat box, throw how many years that you know Martinelli's going to be here for. Alice says, why is it always the little boys who have to pick up the soak? What? Yes. Oh, no, I see what we're saying. For a minute, I was like, that sounds dodgy. But yeah, no, 100%. It's our youngsters. It is the young guys that are taking the game to the opposition. And our senior players, the likes of Lacazette, the likes of Ozil, the likes of Mustafi, need to look at themselves and think, what am I doing? What am I doing? Because the youngsters are the ones that are taking it. That are really, really taking it to the opposition, 100%. Temi says, the light is coming after all these draws. Keep your heads up, boys. It's important that we're not losing games. And this will be such a huge confidence boost for the team going into that Bournemouth game. We've got a nice amount of time to rest before a game on Monday. I know it's horrible waiting a long time for Arsenal to play again. But we've got a nicer rest. We've got a longer rest amount of time than the other teams in the league. So it's really, really key. Yeah, but he says, what do you think? Of course, players look at clubs like us as stepping stones. We can't even get into Europe. Come on now. I mean, I'm not really complaining about it. It's just what it is. It is what it is. That is what Arsenal are right now. Milo says, Mustafi is human at the end of the day. Leave him alone. Now, the thing about this is this is probably why I'm going to end the show on this point. It's because there's a difference between being critical and being abusive, and you can be critical without being abusive, and that is just by being analytical about stuff and saying that someone is not good enough and saying someone that is making too many mistakes, and you highlight that with statistics and evidence. If you abuse someone, you're slagging them off, you're throwing insults their way, and there's a difference. So it's nothing about saying we need to leave him alone. Be critical and be analytical, but don't be abusive, and it's as simple as that. fantastic result from the guys today. Don't really know and didn't really understand how we've still managed to come out from that game with a point, but we have. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it. Please become a member if you want to get involved with the chat box a lot more and get your own badges, get some exclusive content as well, because it's really good stuff. And you'll be getting your new content very, very soon at the start of February for those new members as well. Subscribe if you're new, like the video if you've enjoyed it, and turn notifications on so you never miss one. I'll see you again very, very soon, and up the Arsenal.